Good evening, and welcome to the Go Mode Podcast's Mentor Tournament. We are having a excellent 5-0 match today between Laggy and Shkoople. Joining me here in the commentary booth is Ezmar.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Long day at work, but get to kick back after work with an excellent race. This should be a good one. As you mentioned, both of these runners are 5-0 in this tournament. And this is also going to be a mentorless week, which should add, a couple extra wrinkles. It's always a nice thing to have the mentor, but we're pretty deep into this mentor tournament now. So I would expect that, with all of the mentoring they've gotten so far, they should have picked up a couple tricks themselves.
Exactly. Also joining me here in the crew department, we've got our tracker, fredAKAderf, and Oro is on Restream. So, I'm excited for this race.
Yeah, I also noticed on Laggy's side, we see the timer is W split. That's my timer of choice.
And it looks like live split over on Shkoople's side. And it looks to me like we've got Abigail on Laggy's sprite and Fierce Deity Link, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the sprites.
So, we're just waiting for the runners to begin. And we should be starting here soon.
Yeah, so given that this is an open seed, do you expect Uncle Routing from either of these runners?
Uncle Routing, yes. At least, I typically see it.
So yeah, we're seeing that on Shkoople's side. Laggy going straight to the Sanctuary, finding only the map.
And Shkoople going for the Uncle side.
Yeah, we saw a map check briefly there. I only noticed green pendant on Hera, which is a little disconcerting because that's an out-of-the-way dungeon, but it's not too long. It would be nice to be able to get that done if it's convenient, but it might not be, and then that makes the possibility of needing to go back for it a little distasteful.
And Laggy finds a blue rupee poultry. There is plenty of early money in this seed.
Yeah, Shkoople not getting rewarded for Uncle Routing. The other day, I had an open race where I was rewarded with the first glove and the moon pearl.
I wouldn't say completely unrewarded. He did get bombs out of his house.
That's true. If Laggy is unable to find bombs before Kakariko, and it's going to be a couple seconds of time loss, which, since the beginning of the game is generally pretty straightforward, everybody's doing the same things, any little bit of time you can save is just guaranteed time save. And Laggy finds bombs. Shkoople could opt to leave them be.
This is true. Did Laggy check Lumberjack? I was watching what we were seeing on Shkoople's side.
Laggy did, but I don't remember what it was.
Since it wasn't memorable, I'm going to imagine it was nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if chat can help fact check us here. Yeah, piece of heart. So, not something I think either of our runners are going to be desperate to go back for.
Well, that takes out one possibility of Nagaseed.
True.
It's not completely off the table yet.
Yeah, so Lumberjack being only accessible after defeating Aghanim. If you see an item there, Aghanim is required. If you see an item that's not worth much there, it doesn't disprove anything, but it can help you if you see something good there. Then you know right away.
Exactly. And Laggy is doing the blind hideout check right now, and gets a magic cape.
Also of note is as those bombs in front. If you haven't found bombs yet by the time you get here, that's generally where you'd love to see some. You just hope one of these front 4 chests has bombs, otherwise you gotta go and buy some.
but we're seeing very similar routing for Kakariko here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Shkoople doesn't quite have the rupees. We'll see after Well if Shkoople's going to break that 100 rupee mark for the bottle vendor.
I'm going to say most likely with the 20 rupee fine there.
Yes. That, and I think there's 20 guaranteed rupees under the pots as well.
That is correct. That was there's our sword and our blue cane. Kind of interesting to have both invincibility items this early.
Yeah, even if we don't see any more heart upgrades, it wouldn't be and the Moon Pearl.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
a good bottle vendor.
As soon as we get to Village of Outcasts, Blind is going to be a pretty decent fight. Even if things go wrong, you have 2 safeties. It's and the sword is basically all you need for that. However, with the magic cape and the fight,
that is correct.
Especially with that Moon Pearl, because until we find Dark World access some other way, namely through both glove upgrades or a single glove upgrade plus the hammer, we may well need to go defeat the wizard in order to get to the Dark World at all. Another unsightly item to see would be the hookshot, because that would grant further Dark World access.
And there's a mushroom on our library today. That's one of those moments where you hope that the witch isn't hiding something in her house.
Or you hope she's hiding something pretty early, because then you find early boots.
That is also true. Depending on the item, you can tell if you're going to need boots early or not.
Mushroom doesn't really give you too much information in that regard.
No, it does not. I've seen Moon Pearl there before, so... And a bottle here is incredible, because you can just loop right back up to the...
Yeah, we'll see if Shkoople decides to get it or leave it. Yeah, Shkoople's getting it, because we haven't had the bottle check for Sick Kid yet. I imagine we're going to see Laggy swing around and pick that up later when it's more convenient, and go ahead and do South Shore now, rather than bank on Lazy Kid having a good important item right now.
And we have one of our pyramid crystals on Eastern Palace today.
Yeah, it's always nice to see when those 3 dungeons are all crystals. The first one you want to see be a pendant, in my experience, is usually Tower of Hera, just because depending on the logic, you could end up with an extra mountain climb. And the other 2 Light World dungeons are really easy to do quickly, so it's good for a nice fast seed to have those Light World dungeons be your required ones. Gives you the opportunity to maybe skip some of the longer ones like Swamp.
Or Turtle.
Or Turtle Rock, yeah.
Anytime you can skip Turtle Rock is good time in my books. And Shkoople's checking our Sick Kid for just some arrows today.
Yeah, so it looks like that was a good choice on Laggy's part to save that for when it's convenient to route it in. We may see... Yeah, it looks like we're seeing Hyrule Castle now on the left side here.
And the question is, will we find a fire source for logical access to the sewers? Because with the latest update to the randomizer, Fire Rod can actually be complete access to the sewers.
Yeah, I kind of hate doing the sewers with the Fire Rod personally, because I can never find the torches in the dark. Maybe that's a problem only I have. I can't even do it in Eastern Palace. It's kind of a problem.
Alright, just a piece of heart in the first check of Hyrule Castle, as Shkoople is checking our water gate.
It would be a little bit disconcerting to see Lamp, though, because that would be the final item needed to put Aghanim in logic. Aghanim's tower can be completed without the lamp, though I know from experience, if you're looking at Aghanim pretty early, and you decide to do it without the lamp, you're better off just looking for the logical lamp anyway. Just because those rooms are rough in the dark.
The maze is okay. The Hall of Holes is...
Yeah. I learned that from experience. It was a couple weeks ago. I attempted to do. I had the map up and everything. The maze, again, as you said, was okay. You know, not great, but you know, manageable.
And we have
But
globes in Mini Moldorm Cave.
Okay, that's
and
still...
our bow.
Okay, gloves and bow means that we're going to be seeing Eastern Palace before anything else. There's no real reason to put it off. To Crystal, you do it. You could potentially route it in with a combination with Palace of Darkness, but...
And Laggy takes an intentional death in the basement for a quick warp back to the entrance, finding, I believe it was a piece of heart and 55 rupees in total.
Yeah, so this doesn't surprise me.
Money in this seat right now.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me to see a 5-0 runner going ahead and just taking this Dark Escape section. Not so much for the single Dark Cross check, which is currently out of logic, but the since we saw the Titan, or not the Titan, but it's the glove upgrade on Shkoople's side, we know that the back of escape is in logic that way. So Laggy may just be going straight on through.
So, and speaking of which, I believe we're about to see the back of escape shortly.
Yeah, so we're gonna... Unfortunately, this wasn't the most efficient play, but knowing that, you know, you could find something in there, it's not terrible.
Laggy's playing Where Is My Treasure Chest? That chest can be hard to find in the dark.
Yeah, I've only tried once and I got it right away. I don't know if it was beginner's luck, but I can't speak to experience on that one.
Laggy can't see this, but the small key is in the back of the sewers.
Ooh, that's a little unfortunate, especially with all this time being wasted right here. For only 20 rupees.
The back of us, the entire escape sequence seemed to be a really, really low results check.
Yeah, Shkoople did get 300 rupees, which is nice to see.
And according to chat, we've got an Octopath Traveler MSU pack in use. I don't know which runner has our audio right now. And Shkoople's going to be going toward Sahasrara and his closet full of goodies. Chat also confirms that it's Laggy who is using the Octopath Traveler MSU pack on their game.
I've heard very good things about that game, but haven't had the pleasure of playing it myself.
Me either, but it has excellent music. We're hearing it now. Shkoople is going for Eastern Palace. As you said, it makes sense to be going here.
Yeah, with it being full clearable, it's not all in logic. It's not logically full clearable without a fire source, but it's pretty much the most gimme of dark rooms in the game. The one behind the big key door is a little bit tougher without a light source, but getting through to the big key chest is almost as free as it gets.
As Laggy gets his gloves and bow from Mini Moldorm Cave.
Yeah, we'll see if Laggy opts to check something else first. Perhaps the back of escape.
Shkoople gets the lucky pattern of all of the cannonballs go left.
Yeah, I remember one time I had the boots when I was doing Eastern Palace, and I was lucky enough that the game allowed me to use the boots to dash through. It's not usually a risk you take. But...
You're very lucky to have gotten through there, then. Usually I have to play the slalom game.
It has been a long time since I've seen the large cannonball, though.
He jumped off the chest ledge and went back through, which makes it more likely to show up. Gotta love that NMG strat for getting through the skeleton room. Cutting down the time in half helps a lot.
Yeah, I recently have ended up just breaking that room pretty badly. Ended up wandering around for 20 seconds before any skeletons decided to show up. It was kind of strange.
Unfortunately, it looks like both of our items are behind the dark rooms. Both of our remaining items.
Yeah, so that puts them out of logic. But here we see Shkoople entering this dark room section. This room is just a hallway that's one tile wide all the way around. So as long as in this room, if you know which pot you're grabbing, which is pretty easy since it's up against the right-hand side, and you have a sword to sort of bat away any skeletons that get in your way, you almost lose no time to this.
Unfortunately,
I usually don't even use the
sword. Did catch up to him
here.
Before he could get through there.
Yeah, I usually don't even use my sword in that room, just because, you know, you don't really need to know where you are and you move a little faster without it out. You just need to know the shape of the room.
I only hold it out because of that snake basket in the front of it. And he does unfortunately not get the frames right to get through the anti-fair. Oh, he just barely gets it for a Cane of Samaria.
It's a good item to see. It's not terribly helpful in terms of world access, but it's definitely something you don't want to be looking for later.
Especially if you can happen to find it before swamp and or ice.
Yeah.
Those glitches have recently made those dungeons a lot more bearable.
Now, I've always liked Swamp Palace. Maybe it's because that's where you find the hookshot, which is objectively the coolest item in A Link to the Past. But, I don't know, I've always had a soft spot for that dungeon.
I don't mind Swamp, except for left side.
We see chat postulating that Agina's holding the lamp. That's certainly possible.
It is, in fact, a possibility.
It's one of those... Agina is one of those checks. It's probably the most frequently orphaned check in you know, that early sphere of checks. Simply because...
it's so out of the way in the other direction from Mini Moldorm Cave.
Yeah, it's out of the way. Ice Rod Cave you can sort of route into your South Shore. It's only a little bit of extra time. You can skip it if you're feeling adventurous. But Agina is so convenient to route into, you know, the Desert and Mire area if you've got the mirror.
And Shkoople is taking on the Armos Knights. Does miss out on the quick kill strategy, but the Armos did not want to play today.
Yeah, I've never considered this boss a terribly slow kill in any circumstance, really. So not getting a quick kill isn't really a death knell.
Oh no, it is not. I've been watching a lot of NMG strats, so makes it easy to see some of them used in gameplay here.
Yeah, personally, I tend to just go for relatively fast strats rather than quick kills. Fast kills, fast enough kills.
So, from here, what do our runners have left for checks? I believe Agina's the only early check left.
Yeah, there's the possibility of using fake flippers.
Although Shkoople does have escape, plus there is King Zora.
Yeah, King Zora is there. Shkoople only needs 3 more rupees for that. That's going to come fairly quickly.
There's plenty of those in the castle.
Right. I might postulate that we might see an early mountain climb. It would be a little bit risky without having hookshot, obviously, to get access to the right side of the mountain. But it's you either go up there and hope that you've got something good on Spectacle Rock Cave or the Old Man, or you check King Zora and or Agina's cave, hoping that you're going to find one of those mountain access items. So I think it would make more sense to go straight up the mountain, personally, because those checks are, or at least Old Man is quick enough that you can just go up there, get that save and quit spot, and see what you've got. Because at this point, we need to see a progress item appear in the next couple of checks.
I do agree with chat that fake flippering to Zora would be a reasonable play here as well, given they have the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, that's true. The main issue with that, it's not really an issue, but the main thing to keep in mind with that is that any of those flippers checks will be out of logic. And banking on those in logic checks, since there are so few of them at this stage, you know that your next logical progression item is going to be somewhere in those next handful of checks.
And I would probably wager on the logical progression being that hammer.
One would hope, because that would kill the Aghanim dream. If we're unlucky, it's Book.
Also pull that off as well. Book would be an interesting logical progression. Hookshot for Death Mountain with a lamp being on the other would also be interesting. As Laggy is going through with Burna strats to take out the
Igor. I learned the other day.
I forgot the name of that monster.
The other day, I learned for the first time that they are not vulnerable to bombos. So I ended up dying in this room.
Shkoople is also going to go for the Dark Cross check here.
Yeah, this makes sense since Shkoople has seen all of the other items, knows that both the key and the map have shown up, which means that Dark Cross is going to be something. It is out of logic, but these runners have been orphaned enough times by burned enough times by orphaning the Dark Cross check. You don't really want to leave it until later.
Besides, logic is merely a suggestion.
Yeah, and there's so many items that we still need to see at this point. We do have Moon Pearl, we do have the Glove, and we do have the Cane of Samaria. But as far as that goes, and I don't know if our tracker has missed this or if Laggy actually didn't pick up the Cane of Samaria. Can we get a confirmation on that? I
didn't see a second dark room.
So, that could be... Okay, so we're seeing that Laggy did pick up the cane. So, that would be a surprising skip. I was really hoping that was the case.
I was hoping Laggy for the fake
that
flipper.
Fun. Yeah, this also makes sense, just in terms of check density, and you get to wrap in the in-logic Zora. The real question in my mind is whether we see Agina before the mountain climb.
We might. It kind of depends on what King Zora gives us.
Yeah, if I went all that way and King Zora didn't give me the item I needed, I may well still decide to just go up the mountain and leave Agina until later. It would sort of depend on my mental state at that point. It would basically be a coin flip. Though going up the mountain, you can sometimes find what you would want to find before going up the mountain on the mountain. Going up the mountain the traditional way has two checks for you to find.
It looks like Shkoople took the wrong whirlpool and has decided to go for... I think we're about to get an Agina check.
That makes sense. You take the wrong whirlpool. You want to save face, so you decide to pretend you meant to do it all along. This play makes a lot of sense from Shkoople.
It does have the advantage of letting you check the desert ledge, too.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see that given Shkoople's route here. It's a lot faster to just save and quit out of Agina's cave.
Mostly because of that staircase right there.
As in real life, staircases are slow.
And we just get money, which means our progression is very likely. Actually, I believe logic is guaranteed to be on King Zora.
Yeah, it has to be King Zora at this point, because without the lamp, we don't have logical mountain access. King Zora could have the lamp.
It's a 50-50. Actually, no, it has to be here, because... Laggy just fake flipped Hobo for a Master Sword.
It's a nice thing for the Hobo to be carrying.
I was going to say it's 50, but no. There's no lamp, so the tower is non-logic yet.
Yep.
So the best case scenario for logic would be hammer. I'd say book or lamp would be worst case.
Yeah, second glove upgrade would be almost as good as hammer, because that gives us Village of Outcasts, full clearable Thieves Town, Skullwood's front. It wouldn't be too bad.
Right, and Lagging's going to check Waterfall Ferry.
Yeah, Jinxie Girl in chat points out it could be Flute. Yeah, King Zora could be Flute, which would pretty directly lead us up the mountain.
And we're getting a bottle check for free blue potions from Waterfall Ferry.
Yeah, I think the silliest progression we could see at this point would probably be Shovel on King Zora into Book. I think that would probably be the silliest thing we could see here. Now, Laggy has to be careful not to take a hit here.
Not too hard. Both of them are in water walking state right now.
Yeah, I've seen it before. It's one of those things you don't want to take for granted, because you feel really dumb.
Then we have Mitt progression from King Zora, and I believe that does solidify Agadem is a dead dream here.
Yeah, it does depend a little bit on where we end up finding Hammer. Hammer and Flippers, importantly, are the two things that you would need to get access to the Palace of Darkness area in the Dark World, I believe. If you don't find either of those, you can't get over there. So, and with the number of checks that are in Palace of Darkness, it's not impossible for both of those to be locked within that area. And I assume we're going to be seeing our Dark World dungeon checks fairly quickly here.
And Laggy enters the Dark World at 2537, being the first runner into the Dark World, with Ice and Mire as pendants, with Skullwoods as our other pyramid crystal.
Those are nice pendant dungeons to see, but in my experience, probably close to 100% of the time, anytime I see Ice Palace, there are 2 progression items in there. It's not likely for that to happen, strictly speaking, but in my experience, it happens every time. And Oro pointing out Pyramid Fairy Hammer is possible, which would mean we have to defeat the wizard.
Okay, I have a worst case scenario for these runners. Hammer and Flippers on Pyramid Fairy.
Ether Medallion found. That's nice to see, since we do need a medallion. We don't know which one, but we do need one of them.
I mean, at this stage, I would prefer Bombos on the off chance we had to go into Ice Palace.
And there's our lamp in Brewery on Shkoople's side. Laggy going to be picking it up momentarily.
That's a lovely place for a lamp.
Yeah, unfortunately, we still haven't seen the Mirror plus Hammer or Hookshot, which means that our Death Mountain access is still limited. But with all of these Dark World checks that we do have access to now, that's not really it doesn't hurt too bad.
Alright, and it looks like we're going to be seeing Thieves Town next. Thieves Town's a fun dungeon to clear early, especially with only 6 hearts. There's our Flippers. Okay,
so Aghanim is officially dead. That area of the world can, in fact, be now completely accessed.
Gotta love when they kill our speculations. It's like minutes after.
I actually do love that. I've had the displeasure of having Flippers denied to me for a very long time.
I can understand that.
It's nice to come across them. The factual Flippers, as I like to call them. As in contrast to the fake Flippers that so many seem to prefer.
So we only got 2 items here in the front, which means there are 2 in the back.
Yeah, that is my personal cutoff for whether or not I venture deeper into Thieves Town if it's a pendant. Since it's a crystal, you go and do it anyway. But that's something you
think
have to consider.
Here's a question for you, more speculation. Do you think they'll have something in the big chest today, since they do not have a hammer?
In my experience, it's you don't bet on something being in that chest. It can always happen, but there are a lot of.
Do you think there's going to be an item now leave them worried?
Now, if there is an item, yeah, that is going to be interesting. A lot of people don't like to dip the back of Thieves Town if they haven't found the hammer yet. I'm not sure I like that philosophy, just because the possibilities are pretty high for that chest to actually end up containing nothing of importance. Whether
or its own small key.
Right, it can have its own small key, which you know by completing the rest of the dungeon. Either way, Thieves Town is such a low investment dungeon, I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense to ever skip out on full clearing Thieves Town.
Now, these crickets are terrifying right now. These crickets do 2 heart damage apiece.
I always thought they were lizards. I suppose it is kind of ambiguous.
Mind you, they're actually the Dark World equivalent of rats. Because if you ever play Entrance Randomizer and find Thieves Town Light World, they do quarter heart damage like the rats in Hyrule Castle.
As I was mentioning earlier, Thieves Town it's a pretty quick dungeon. Or at least it feels quick. It's maybe not as quick as it feels sometimes, but it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't have very many requirements. It's very easy to do early as soon as you have access to it. By the same token, it's sort of right next to a Dark World warp, so it's not a terrible dungeon to return to. But in a race scenario, returning anywhere is lost time.
And the small key is locked in its own chest today. Because blind cannot have that key.
Yeah, the reason for that being that in the room with the crystal switch, there's a key under a pot, and it's technically possible to take that key and use it somewhere else in the dungeon. And if you do that, then there would be no way to get upstairs until defeating the boss for the second small key, which you can't do without going upstairs. So blind cannot have that item, and Shkoople gets an excellent blind fight there.
And Shkoople gets his crystal with Laggy directly behind him on that.
Yeah, a little less optimal of a blind fight. You know, it's if blind doesn't go to the bottom of the screen, you know you got a really good blind fight. Laggy's not too bad at all, using that Cane of Verna just for some comfort. And as expected, we see the wraparound through the South Dark World. It could have been possible to see. Here we see Laggy. Oh no, maybe thinking of picking up Jeremiah there, but realizing that the shovel game is probably a little more important to do here.
You do the shovel game before doing the frog every time, because you cannot do the shovel game while you have the frog or the purple chest.
Exactly. So if you're going to do the wraparound, you don't grab the cursed snake.
It looks like that red rupee was the reward. Kind of a disappointing reward for about 24 digs.
Yeah, the question is, yes, we do get the screen transition before the countdown completes, which saves a text box worth of time. We see Shkoople opting to go back up and grab the frog before doing this next part. This is a little more efficient of a way of doing this. Especially since before you find the mirror, you do have to save and quit to get back to the light world. And so once you sort of complete the routing...
Old Stumpy has our ice rod.
Yeah,
so there goes one of our favorite games here.
Yeah, again, one more thing to not have to hunt for later on.
Because we do have a Trinex fight that we'll have to do.
Yeah, I like the play from both of these runners, either to both take the Smith and to not take the Smith. With Shkoople, it's a little bit of extra time investment for, the ability to sort of wrap at least that first Smith chain check in. Opens up the possibility for maybe nabbing the purple chest quickly later if it comes into play.
I give this Hype Cave a 1 out of 10. The Magical Boomerang's an okay item to have on hand.
I'd give it at least a 2.
I have seen worse.
It's a little better for Shkoople because Shkoople doesn't have that Master Sword, which means no sword beams, which means it'd be a little more awkward to. Well, I guess with the Cane of Samaria, it's not a big deal to hit the switch in Paradox Cave. I've gotten to Paradox Cave without any convenient way to hit that switch before, and it's always a little annoying.
Laggy is going to go check our Palace of Darkness area, possibly the Pyramid.
Yeah, it sort of makes sense, given that we didn't see Laggy pick up the Smith. We saw Shkoople pick up the Smith, so it would make sense that after doing Hype Cave, the plan was to just save and quit back to the Light World. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Laggy take the Smith into Palace of Darkness. You might not be able to do that and still grab the monkey, honestly. I haven't ever done that before.
I believe you can only have one follower at a time, and
I would imagine.
Usually trying to enter with the Smith anyways would have him leave, and you'd have to go pick him up again.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of places you can go with that Smith, though. It's pretty remarkable.
And chat confirms that the monkey would replace the Smith.
Okay, so we see Shkoople going back to the Dark World. I'm kind of wondering just what we'll see here, if we see a Skull Woods play.
We look like we're having a Skull Woods play.
Yeah, that seems to be what I would expect, seeing an immediate redip back into Dark World after turning into Smith. We could have seen a mountain climb, but again, without Hookshot or Mirror plus Hammer, you've only got the 2 checks available. The Palace of Darkness play is a little bit, risky. You can't full clear it until you find that hammer, but
There's our mirror in Skullwoods.
Mirror in Skullwoods is that's pretty big. It's a little less big than it would be if Skullwoods was a pendant dungeon, which would make checking the front of it a little less appealing.
Less appealing, but still very likely.
Right. Eventually, it would happen. A lot of the time you can make the play to not opt to go for the Skullwoods play, just because there's always that possibility that the 2 items that Skullwoods has are both going to be in the back, and it's just a waste of time. It's not a huge waste of time. It is pretty quick to clear out that front. And with the cane, it makes a lot of sense.
That room is the easiest room with the cane.
Yeah, I would imagine maybe we wouldn't have seen that room getting checked if we hadn't.
There's
had
both of our items in Skullwoods.
So that's exactly what Shkoople was hoping for. Hoping to make sure that we can take everything out of Skullwoods right now, not have to think about, okay, well, we're hoping to find X, could be hammer. Ooh, Laggy.
Intentional death.
Intentional death warp because no mirror. So that's going to help Shkoople out when Shkoople eventually wraps around to Palace of Darkness.
And since they have the cape, they can also check this bumper ledge.
Yeah, I really like this routing from Shkoople. Taking the Smith
There's
early.
the hammer.
Yep, this is exactly why.
That is a massive payout for this check.
Yeah, that's exactly why you think of, okay, you know, you're waiting on a lot of items for dungeon clears. So Laggy is making the hard read that there's going to be something in the relatively item dense pod. The problem with that is you can't clear pod. And while it's usually good to prioritize dungeons if possible, if you don't have the item to full clear it, the value kind of disappears. Whereas Shkoople decided, okay, I'm going to route all of these overworld dark world checks into my route. I imagine we see Shkoople continue on along the north side, maybe hit up Catfish, but now that
was a very tense exit.
Maybe dive right into pod. So that would be Shkoople's route, I imagine here.
And with that mirror find, we can get this graveyard ledge check as well.
Yeah, this routing really paying off in spades here. All of the items that one would want to see when taking this route. The only thing missing is the boots. With the boots, we'd be able to check King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks as well. And there we have
acceptable.
2 out of 3 medallions. That's nice. Now you can feel okay about a blind Turtle Rock read. Laggy finding that half magic in the back of Palace of Darkness.
That's a nice convenient item to find.
Yeah, it's something you always like to see unless you're hoping to find something else in particular.
Magic Powder is another nice safety item to find as well.
Yeah, and we do know that with the hammer accessible, Magic Bat is now in play.
Hammer and mirror accessible, because we also have the Titan's Mitts. Shkoople's making his route to Zoro. We know he'll get his Master Sword.
Yeah, now the only item we'd like to see before we go up the mountain is the hook shot, but not for the right side access that you sort of usually get, but for Hookshot Cave. Because that is now the only thing on the mountain that we don't have accessible. So you could make the slightly risky play of putting it off until you do find the hook shot, or opting to go up there soonish and hey, maybe you find it up there. There's a lot of checks open on Death Mountain right now, and they're all in logic.
This includes the 2 in Tower of Hera. As Laggy sets up another Death Warp here from that big chest. Luckily for Laggy, green mail is what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, Shkoople's routing going a little off what I sort of predicted. Rather than routing.
The pod check makes sense though.
Yeah, going to pod here makes sense. The routing through to Hobo was a little bit unwieldy.
It does pay off for him though with that Master Sword. These enemies hurt.
Yeah, so now Shkoople going into the pod area as Laggy is on his way out. Had to sort of leave with his tail between his legs as he didn't have the hammer to go any further.
We're going to see, very likely, we're probably going to see Catfish as well as Pyramid here.
Yeah, I expect Pyramid into Catfish at this point. Really hoping to see that hammer, or maybe hoping to not see the hammer. Because if you dive into pod without having checked this first, and then this is hammer, then you've got egg on your face. Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, I'm wondering at this point when we see Death Mountain, I might expect to see it from Shkoople after we finish pod here, because that just seems to be the logical next choice. You might end up
I would agree unless we find the hook shot.
Well, yeah, if we find, well, yeah, I suppose if we find the hook shot, then there's no real reason to rush up the mountain. Because if you can get away with only one mountain climb in the entire game, that's it's nice to see.
Either the hook shot, the fire rod, or the flute or book would be ideal here for them to avoid a second mountain climb, if possible.
Yeah, at this point, it's going to be very nice to see basically any item that isn't required for Turtle Rock. If the only items we're waiting for are the Turtle Rock items when we go up the mountain, that's ideal.
The hookshot would be the best item to put it off because there are 6 checks in the Swamp Palace.
Now, I don't recall where we saw Ice Rod on Laggy's side that Shkoople didn't end up.
Old Stumpy.
Oh, so did Shkoople not?
Shkoople did grab Old Stumpy.
Okay. And I'm trusting our tracker.
Yes.
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm trying to trust you.
I'm not trying to throw anything here.
I do recall on the volunteer, guidelines. It mentions something that sort of led me to believe that at some point there was one tracker for each stream, which would be a lot easier to manage. Trying to manage 2 streams it's definitely a lot trickier. So GG on anybody who takes up on the mantle of tracking. It's a lot harder than it looks.
It really is. So, good work by Fred for taking on tracking for this race.
Laggy's gonna be just seeing oof after oof here on this wrap around the north side into Skull Woods. Mirror showing up, and then if he has the presence of mind to check that bumper cave, the hammer's gonna show up. And it's gonna be like, well, darn.
That collapsing bridge gets everybody. This is not a fun room to have Helmosaurs in.
Yeah, fun fact, it is possible to actually walk back across the bridge before it starts collapsing. You might think you wouldn't have enough time to get all the way to the collapsing end before without the boots, but it is possible, which can help in some routings of Pod if you can't set up a death warp easily.
I figured it would be possible because of when it starts collapsing when setting up Hammer Yump. Because it doesn't start collapsing until you cross over the rail. This is a fun dark room to do with no lamp.
Yeah, I've managed to get both of the chests just going off of memory. But yeah, any of these mazes with the low walls that enemies can attack across are rough to do in the dark. And Laggy making that painful trek up bumper cave to grab that hammer.
Better to find it now than on Death Mountain.
Yeah, it would be pretty hard to find it on Death Mountain since it's here. Now
and Shkoople's going to Helmosaur King.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to see. I suppose we do have, the Graveyard Ledge check, so it does make some sense for Laggy to go that route rather than, because I was considering, maybe you consider going up the mountain, maybe you find Flute there, and it's a pretty easy return to get to Pod. Yeah, I do have confirmation here that there will be an item on Helmassar. So we probably will see Laggy return to Palace of Darkness.
I would actually say it makes more sense for Laggy to go to the mountain right now. There's a higher density of checks there at this point.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get burned by that last Palace of Darkness check, but yeah, going up the mountain does make sense. So, as I was saying earlier, before I decided to change my mind on a whim.
As Shkoople begins fighting the Helmassar King.
Yeah, this fight is pretty easy. You know, even if you only have Master Sword and bow, the bow is pretty quick to take out the head with, in my experience, unless he starts sort of moving around, which
it looks like Shkoople's Helmassar did happen to move a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes
it's a smart move to just slash at the head.
Yeah, you don't want to waste the time switching to the bow. Yeah, Laggy already went through as much of pod as was possible, but unfortunately Hammer was not in that inventory.
Both runners only get 10 arrows for their checks from the start.
Yeah, no, Death Mountain climbs are kind of an interesting consideration because it's a classic newbie trap to not weigh them heavily enough, but it can sort of be an equally devastating trap to weigh them too heavily.
And it did pay off to put off the mountain, as we find 40 rupees on Spectacle Rock and Spectacle Rock Cave.
Yes, an early mountain climb would not have been worth it, which in retrospect made a lot more sense given that we hadn't seen the lamp yet. Now, no hookshot, we won't be seeing Harapot here.
But we have a lamp, so we could see the basement if applicable.
Yeah, those are kind of two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You got one of them saves a lot of time, and one of them loses a lot of time.
And sometimes the losing time is important here. But luckily, the basement is not required yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's looking very possible that there's an item in the basement. Laggy perhaps going in to check if there were any easily accessible items before committing to a Hera climb. Makes sense. It's only the pendant, but it's a green pendant, so technically it's worth one extra check. But we're already done with, well...
Laggy's not done with that area. Only Bond on the island.
Yeah. Laggy's got to go back for pod, so maybe it could be a reasoned gamble to go and clear Hera, just in case that green pendant item becomes important. Because Shkoople would have to go out of their way to turn that in.
Everyone's favorite cave to do without boots. Spiral Cave.
Yeah, I remember the first... One of the first deeds I did, I found boots here, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a thing you've always got to be prepared to do. Spiral Cave without boots.
Blue mail is a nice reward, though.
Yeah, blue mail is... You start feeling nervous when you start getting deep and you haven't seen any mail upgrades. If you've seen blue, you're usually fine. Nobody at this stage, certainly not a 5-0 runner, like Laggy or Shkoople here is going to be sweating if they don't have the red mail.
I like this routing to go to Dark World before doing Paradox, just to get that warp portal back.
Yeah, it's having the mirror here opens up a lot of possibilities here. I've got to keep this in mind. I keep forgetting about that block. I usually just do Paradox Cave completely vanilla. I'm sure I've done it vanilla when I didn't need to, since I had the mirror. Yeah, And this is the very room that it would be. It's nice to have a boomerang, if nothing else. Otherwise, you gotta just chuck a bomb over or something.
That is a nice find in that tempered sword.
Not a major find, but a nice find. It's not a major find because Shkoople's going to be coming up on that pretty quick on the right side here.
And now we go into
Octopath Traveler.
And now we go into everyone's favorite, or the cave that everyone has affectionately referred to as Super Bunny Cave.
Yeah, so named because of the Super Bunny glitch, which is it's a glitch that you can trigger in a variety of ways. Notably, if you don't have the Moon Pearl and you fall down a hole in the Dark World, the game doesn't really process that properly, and you are able to do things that the bunny normally cannot do, such as open chests or push blocks. And so since it's so free to set up in that cave in particular, it's come to be known as Super Bunny Cave.
All right, and we're now going to see the moment of truth as to, do we have the medallion? And we do. So, and that is the medallion that was in the graveyard cave.
Yeah, we still do have the possibility of Fire Rod and Pendant Ice Palace, though. If we find that Bombos medallion first, Fire Rod could still be in there.
You just want all the terrible things, don't you?
All I'm saying is 100% of the time, when I have Pendant Ice Palace, I need to go in there for 2 items. Happened 2 seeds in a row. That's good enough for me.
And the 2 of them high-five each other on the way past?
Yeah, people notably not even dipping into Hera. So Laggy, the only one.
Shkoople checked the first 2 like Laggy did.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, the pendant is going to be a little more enticing for Laggy than Shkoople, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Shkoople clear Hera as well. Obviously, you go around
where
first.
We're looking for so many items at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, I imagine we see Hera down into Spike Cave, especially with that green potion pickup. Though with the half magic, it doesn't really matter that much. Spike Cave is usually the last check you want to wrap in, just because it's, you can save and quit out. You don't have to walk back.
And now we have the moment of where we hope the map is in the basement.
Yeah, if the map isn't in the basement, then it becomes a pretty tough call on whether or not to skip it, because you can save quite a bit of time by skipping it. But if it's an item and there's a lot of stuff we'd still really love to see, it's a little dicey to skip it.
Now, routing Paradox before Moldworm did help because you were able to get that Tempered Sword for an easy Moldworm kill.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, routing basically everything on that eastern side of Death Mountain first is a pretty obvious play with Herapot being a thing. If you get that hook shot, then you can save quite a bit of time in Tower of Hera. Yeah, since we do see an item on Moldorm, the basement is safe to ignore, though I wouldn't have been surprised at all if we had seen the map to have seen a basement dive, just because of the number of items that we need to see still. Notably, the flute is not going to be required.
But they won't complain.
So now it probably is our logical Desert Palace access. I was just about to bring up the possibility, since Mire is a pendant dungeon, this could be a fluteless seed. The runners will be thanking their lucky stars that it is not. Especially Laggy, who has to return to pod.
And Shkoople's gonna make the dive into Turtle Rock. Or at least open Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I kind of if Shkoople goes in, I respect that play just because without the fire rod, you can make a pretty quick dive. Because if the first chest is a small key, then you can get further in. But if it's not a small key, then you know you can't do anything else without fire rod. With the mirror, you just sort of dive back out. It's a low risk, low reward kind of dive. It does spend a little bit of time, but it's not the worst, most questionable decision to make. You certainly do check Super Bunny Cave first. But yeah, in any case, if you take that portal and you have the right medallion, you go ahead and open it up, because then you can make a quicker climb later on. Laggy check in Desert Lead. And with the mirror, we're going to be seeing the Mire area checks here, including Checkerboard Cave, I imagine.
I would be very surprised if we didn't, and it's also Quake for Mire access if we need it.
Yeah, chat pointing out that without boots or hookshot, we can't really do much of anything in Mire right now. There were some quick block deletions there. I don't know if that was lag on the capture or there's some insane new strat I'm unaware of. Now we get to see if Desert is boots locked.
That would be worst case scenario for them.
There's an item on that torch, and if you need to grab it, you gotta find the boots first. Either way, the best case scenario really is being able to have Desert access with the flute and mirror, just because entering through that room...
boots locked.
Yeah, we're boots locked, but it's not a big deal because we still have that mirror. We can dive right out. Mirror really makes a lot of dungeon routing really convenient in a lot of places.
Finding the small key there is nice though, because you can go all the way over and finish the right side.
And again, with the mirror, it doesn't take. Usually, you know, there's always a there and back again that you sort of have to put into play. But in a dungeon, especially a dungeon like Desert Palace, with the mirror, that's not really a concern. Which is just so nice to see sometimes. Pod benefits a lot from mirror. Desert Palace benefits a lot from mirror.
However, our items are both on the other side.
From mirror.
The items are both behind that big key.
Yeah, that is interesting. So we've got one on the boss and one in the big key chest. Still, information that's worth having. It's a little disappointing, but since you know you have to clear it anyway, it makes it convenient for the return trip. Yeah, Laggy looking a little bit ahead here, but only because Shkoople was able to wrap around the north side of Dark World earlier, pick up that hammer, and notably a clear on Palace of Darkness ahead of Laggy at the moment.
At this point, the runners only have one real option on where to go. And that is Swamp Palace.
Yeah, I would say that is a reasonable play to make here.
Although Laggy will likely route that Helmastar King and Green Pendant turn first.
Now, if the Green Pendant is Fire Rod or Bombos, does that change things a little bit? Because that gives us access to Ice Palace.
I would say Fire Rod, probably not.
Yeah, Fire Rod obviously would lead more heavily towards Skull Woods. However, Skull Woods is not going to be any more item checks because we've seen both of them already.
I would say that Fire Rod would still lead down to Skull Woods or Swamp Palace first, because on the chances it's a vanilla area hookshot, that could get them up to Turtle Rock and go.
Yeah, Fire Rod could lead deeper into Turtle Rock. And then you could find Hookshot down there.
That's Bombos, though, so I guess we'll see the answer to that question, won't we?
So we'll see. We'll see if they take this as a sign that you got to go into Pendant Ice Palace. Given my track record with Pendant Ice Palace, at this point, if I were in Laggy's shoes right now, I would clear pod and then just make the hard read on Ice Palace. That's maybe not the best choice, but that is the choice that I would make, and that sort of just goes to illustrate how individual experience with randomizer seeds can sort of lead you to make different decisions. You know, it's sort of recency bias, it's gambler's fallacy, but sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts. It's really hard to say.
And everyone's second favorite thing to do without boots.
I actually kind of like doing this without boots, just because it becomes like a little micro optimization challenge. It's like, okay, how little time can I lose here? Shkoople doing it very nicely. Sometimes it's hard to get those hits in quickly. It doesn't pay off, but
he may have done it nicely, but there was not really a reward for it.
Yes, this is interesting seeing all of this overworld routing from Shkoople here.
Where he has the flute and the mirror, I'm not surprised to see the coming purple chest check. Because like I said, he has to do Swamp Palace soon.
Yeah, and I suppose it was pretty obvious that Laggy would want to go back to pod immediately after activating that flute. Red mail on the magic bat, so Shkoople is raring to go.
We got red mail, red sword, red cane, red cape, red boomerang. They just want that red rod. They want that red rod,
and those red boots. Pick up that red mushroom. So that is going to be interesting to remember when we pick up those boots, because the library does have a mushroom in it. Those books are getting a little bit musty.
As Laggy is now going into Helmus Arcane.
Yeah, chat's sort of debating Pendant Ice versus Hookshotless Swamp. Swamp is by the numbers the better play. I would say 9 times out of 10 you'd want to go into Crystal Hookshotless Swamp first. Especially, you know, I mean, since you have the mirror, you can dive right back out. Sort of minimize the dive risk. So with Samaria, dipping into Pendant Ice Palace could pay off almost immediately. I would still consider Pendant Ice Palace to be a hard read at this point.
The biggest consideration here is Shkoople does not have Bombos yet.
That's true. Yeah, I would be a little bit surprised to see that coming from Shkoople here. But on Laggy's side, you know, it's a possibility.
And Shkoople unfortunately loses the purple chest.
I didn't want it anyway. I imagine we're going to see Laggy doing those same, notably doing the first part of the Smith chain as well. Able to do it a little bit quicker because Mirror is now available. Shkoople disappointing me in with the inefficiency and that block pushing, especially since you want to go and route through desert. You don't really lose time by equipping the mirror, and then if you can get both chests by just deleting 3 blocks. Come on, man, you're 5-0. You should know that.
Looking at the chat, I will just say, since we're both on voice at the moment, I will say that thank you to Links Pasken for gifting subs to Sen, Philisty, Omegatoas, Seawalker777, and Blucano.
Yeah, those gift subs are a great way to support Go Mode Podcast. It's a really, really great community here. Putting on this mentor tournament, it's helping a lot of people improve at the game. Notably, I remember I've been playing randomizer casually for a couple of years now. Just recently, Vortex started, and he's put in a lot of hours, and this mentor tournament has really improved his game. So now if I were up against him in the ladder, I'd have to outbrain him to win. But yeah, we're going to be seeing some old ground here from both runners.
So while the runners are running this old ground, I'll just take a moment to say, be sure to follow these runners, because like you said, referencing Vortex, the runners have put in a lot of work for this tournament. Oh, they deserve to follow.
I mean, we've seen a lot on the restream here, but there have been plenty of matches that weren't restreamed, and you know, hours and hours of practice outside, and I mean, it's all fun. It's not grueling practice, but you know, practice is practice.
Shkoople is at least opening Misery Mire.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a time investment, but not a huge time investment. It may as well. Saves you a little bit of time later. Well, I guess it doesn't really save you any time later if you got to go back in. But
it saves the lag in the area, though.
That's true. If you do have to come back here, perhaps forgetting that there's not really much to do. Ooh, maybe opting to go for this. No, yeah, I think Shkoople simply forgot that there's no way to get any deeper in Mire. That's
So Shkoople is now turning in his green pendant.
It's an easy mistake to make. Usually at this point, you've seen at least one of those two items. Hookshot it's generally not a late item to find, since it's not necessarily required for a lot of things.
You say that, and yet I have both seen and had Hookshot in Tile Room before.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, because the way that the logic places items, you end up... It's not completely random. You'd sort of think that it is... You know, well, it's random. It's got an equal chance of being anywhere. But given the sort of lock and key structure that the items sort of have and interact with each other, you sort of end up, you know, you don't tend to see Hookshot late.
Is making the Hookshotless Swamp play.
As we see,
Shkoople is making the Ice Palace play.
So this is going to be great. We get a nice side-by-side comparison of which was the better idea. Real time.
Always fun to see that. We couldn't have asked for a better moment on the restream, could we?
It's like they're listening to us.
If you are listening to us, stop. You're supposed to be running this race without cheating.
It's mentorless. We're just standing in for their mentors, huh?
That is entirely meant as a joke. I know that they're not, because these runners have been doing well this entire tournament. Yeah,
especially, you know, a tournament like the mentor tournament. There's really no incentive to cheat. It's you're supposed to be getting better. There's no prize attached to it. So if anybody is cheating in the mentor tournament, they're really missing the point entirely. See Shkoople about to execute an icebreaker, I would imagine. I feel like I'm the only person who has still not embraced that technology.
It still surprises... I will be honest, it surprises me that it's the legal technology.
Yeah, I mean, that it is kind of... I feel like that's kind of... I don't keep up with the Joneses in terms of Link to the Past speedrunning, but I feel like it's a hot button.
It's illegal in speedruns.
Yeah, I would... Well, depending on your category. I would say it doesn't belong in no major glitches. It's a pretty major glitch. That is a tile-thick wall that you're just clipping through. I think that constitutes a major glitch. But here in Randomizer, look at that. Now we can check these 3 chests right away. And this is sort of what I was alluding to earlier when I said that this could be a very quick dive. And not anymore with that small key. But we have a chest there. There's a chest in this room, and there's a chest one floor down, I think, very next room.
Yes, there's one right down here in the spike room.
So if all 3 of those are non-dungeon...
And actually, this does make it a very quick check, because that's the big key.
The big key I mean, it is nice to see. Obviously, in Pendant Ice, you'd like to see all 3 of these chests be items, which none of them were, which means we got to keep going. But it's still much faster than going my way.
Do you run Ice Palace Vanilla?
I do run Ice Palace Vanilla. I don't even do the bomb jump. It's just the way I like to play the game. I just take the L's.
I don't blame you. But heading for Ice Tea Room here.
Yeah, one interesting note that I've noticed is the Icebreaker logic or other Ice Palace breaking logic sometimes has a hard time routing Ice Tea in, which every once in a blue moon can work out in Vanilla routing's favor. But it's very rare for Vanilla to save time in a full clear versus Icebreaker.
I'll admit I don't have trouble routing Ice Tea in, but I know how to bomb jump over this gap that Shkoople's approaching in both directions.
Yeah, it sometimes depends on your key routing, or where your checks have led you to go look at. And yeah, excellent bomb jump across that gap.
Chat is right. This would be a hilarious time for neither of these checks to pay off and for Turtle Rock to be progression.
Yeah, we still haven't seen our first item yet in Ice Palace here. It's all been keys and dungeon items. There we see
That's a nice item.
There we go. That's what we like to see. That would have been terrible with my routing because I would have had to go, halfway up the right side just to get that big key and then come back. So yeah, Icebreaker working out. And then we're gonna see the full clear because why not? You might have to see the pedestal at some point.
There's another item. It makes sense to take on Cold Steer here because there's another item in the dungeon.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's another item that we need because then I'm still right. Anytime you have Pendant Ice Palace,
and yes, that is a required Pendant Ice Palace for those boots because of Desert Palace.
I'm not surprised. Pendant Ice Palace is always required.
And nothing in Swamp Palace.
Well, I mean, there's a jellyfish downstairs, but we can't really say hello yet.
The jellyfish won't let us get to his place unless we can fly across gaps by hooking onto a skull.
Well, I mean, he can just fly across them, just normally. It's his house. His house, his rules.
And there's Cold Steer's prize, a whole 1 rupee.
Aw, man.
With Ice Palace having the boots, another place just opened up in Logic.
Well, another couple places. But yes, we do have the opportunity for a Mire dip. So this is one of those points where you start thinking, okay, how intelligent is the randomizer algorithm? Is this actually pointing to a pedestal check? Because we haven't had the book, we can't check what's on the pedestal. But with the full clearable Misery Mire, it could be a long shot play that you make, and we're seeing Shkoople go in.
I think Shkoople is making it. No, he's making Desert. He's playing Desert here.
Oh yeah, I suppose. No, yeah. Of course he's playing Desert because now we can clear Desert.
But in your opinion, I want your opinion here, and I'll take chat's opinion here. Do you make the Mire dive here?
I wouldn't as Shkoople. Because, you made that play earlier to Skull Woods across the top of Dark World, and were rewarded with the mirror and the hammer, and were able to full clear pod on your first dive.
I'd like to
throw something out behind.
I'd like to throw out from chat too. The book could be on the pedestal, and Fire Rod could be on a tablet.
Yeah, it's certainly possible, but yeah, in my opinion, in Shkoople's position, it would be a risky play to make. It would be an exciting play, but it would be a little bit risky. Because Mire, it can be a kind of swingy dungeon. It's never incredibly long, but it can be either very fast or very slow.
Shkoople is setting up the icebreaker here.
Or a laggy.
Laggy is setting up icebreaker. My apologies.
For a second I had to... Yeah, that's a very nice icebreaker.
I honestly thought the block moved too far. There's our Fire Rod in the... There's Fire Rod. We are a hook shot from go mode right now.
An unusual sight. Not rare, but unusual.
I'd like to point out, our pedestal hit could still read boing boing boing.
Yeah, again, that's one of the things with the pedestal dungeons that we have, or the pendant dungeons that we have. It's if you got a lot of low requirement pedestal dungeon or pendant dungeons, too many P words. That always sort of sits at the back of your mind. It's like it's possible that we do see the pedestal, because pedestal is most often ruled out by items required to collect the pendants.
If I were in Shkoople's shoes, I'd actually consider the mire dive here. And the reason is, we have a fire rod. If we decide to take the risk and do it, we can route the pedestal in with Mothula.
Yeah, it certainly is about the friendliest a pedestal check gets at this point. It's either that or hope you don't have to go back to Mire, which isn't the worst either, because it's pretty quick to get to in terms of overworld movement. But again, you do lose out on the routing it straight into Skull Woods. On the other hand, we do have King's Tomb and Bonkrock Cave that are both open, so I would imagine we see those first. Over saving the small amount of time by diving directly into Mire here.
I would consider it, but I agree it's a better play here.
Yeah, again, as I was pointing out earlier, if you're Shkoople here, you've made some good plays already, and you don't want to make a long shot play now. Laggy, on the other hand, just picking up the boots now, maybe a little more tempted to make that bigger play. And just go directly into Misery Mire and hope you need that pendant, since it's about as small of a time loss as you could imagine to route it in. Because that's another consideration with the pedestal, is it's sort of tucked away in a corner of the map. If you can route it in with Skull Woods, that's handy if you need to do it.
Honestly, even with what we know, Laggy could still be in a decent position to skip Mire still too. Because Mire is also only 2 checks, 3 when we include pedestal.
Yeah, and with that, you sort of, if you don't include the pedestal, you break even with, as I mentioned, the Bonkrocks and King's Tomb checks, which you know where they are and they're easy to pick up. So those are the safer checks. And Shkoople feeling pretty good, especially about the mirror and hammer finds earlier. You don't think that you need to make a big play like that necessarily. You go for the stuff that's safer, check density, sort of just rely on that safety. Ooh, taking a little bit of a risk there, diving down to that hole early. If you're a little bit slow, that hand will grab you.
I've gotten 1.0'd by that, yeah. That is a bug that was removed in the 1.1 patch that also removed a bunch of our useful speedrunning glitches.
I'll take it, honestly.
I will take it for item dashing and Silverless Ganon alone.
Now, if only Shkoople had the book, we probably would have seen a ped check at that point.
And yes, chat, the Ice Palace has the potential to be hookshot locked, but with that key layout, I believe it is not.
Yeah, we saw too many keys outside of Ice Tea, I believe.
I'm trying to think of how the key layout could work out in that way.
Double. Big if true. We might, with the shovel, I imagine we're going to see that mushroom picked up. Check the shovel spot, go pick up the mushroom. If, we don't get the hook shot out of the dig spot, then you flute to number 2, turn in the mushroom. and then cry because you still haven't found what you're looking for.
We have found our first shield.
The worst shield.
You know what the worst part about this shield is? It doesn't match our color scheme right now.
Yeah, it's very useful if you're going for blue %, but pretty much useless otherwise. Shkoople checking that lumberjack as they skipped it earlier. So yeah, deciding to do that, save and quit. Yeah, going to Mountain Cave because it's the quickest to heal up and exit. Like
and going to Turtle Rock.
Going to Turtle Rock, interesting. Perhaps forgetting that the mushroom is also in play along with the shovel.
Depending on the key layout, it makes sense here though. Well, actually, I forgot we have fire out for a second there. It makes sense to go here with the higher check density.
It's true. You do like to climb Turtle Rock at the end, but yeah, it's a slightly more aggressive routing, not unreasonably aggressive though.
I would also say that if we find Hookshot here, you go mode TR and you go mode Swamp.
Yeah, at this point, you'd be disappointed to not see a Hookshot in here, but not crestfallen.
And the dead rocks do not give him room to move, do they?
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, if you had done some of those other checks, turn in the fetch quests, and you had found the hookshot, you wouldn't necessarily feel like a genius. I would just be like, oh, nice, I can do Swamp first, and then go up to the Turtle Rock. But yeah, Turtle Rock is definitely the safer play, and it makes sense having made some nice plays earlier that you want to make sure you maintain that lead.
This upcoming check in Turtle Rock is a check I like to check for go mode items like that one.
See, imagine. I alluded to a quick Turtle Rock dip earlier just for that first item. Imagine if we'd done that. I do
sorry,
like to make that.
I have done that before and been like, oh, my go mode, I'll just check this for go mode, and look.
Yeah, so let that be a lesson to anybody watching. Dipping into Turtle Rock, if possible, for that first check, even if you don't have Fire Rod, not always a bad idea. It again, as you notice, especially if you have the mirror, it's pretty quick to do, and it could be exactly what you're looking for. It's a little bit of a gamble that you can take. It's not a high risk, but could pay off. It's not necessarily something you want to do every time. Shkoople also sort of... well, what is Shkoople doing? Maybe Shkoople forgetting that it just picked up the hookshot. There's a little fast strat you can do, lighting these torches and then hookshotting to them to reset.
I do that in vanilla. I did that in vanilla before I found out about speedrunning, actually. It just made sense to me.
And ordinarily, you have to go...
the long way.
Yeah, you go the long way, and you have to light them at sort of the last possible second. The puzzle being like,
always good to find your big key in here.
Very good Mothula fight, by the way, by Leg.
And since we're in go mode, that means you can actually steal the key and skip a lava chest.
Yeah, that's true. The only reason that you would want to go to the lava chest would be if you haven't seen Big Key yet, because you might need Big Key to open the big chest to get a small key for later. But if we don't need to find any more items, and we've already seen the big key, then the most valuable thing that chest could contain is a small key, which you have to spend one of to get there anyway. So if you've already seen the big key and don't need any more items, you just skip it. Saves a good, 10-15 seconds.
Laggy's making the Pyramid Fairy check.
Now, yeah, this is sort of what I was alluding to earlier. You do some of the overworld checks, since there are several available. You don't want to commit to a mountain play, just to perhaps have to go up again. Unfortunately, we know it's not going to be the It's not going to really save much time in this case. We could see silvers pop up though. If we have a vanilla pyramid, this could be decent for Laggy.
That was an excellent powder usage by Shkoople there to get all 4 at once.
Okay. I was wondering if we were going to see Shkoople open that door, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that.
I love that bunny sprite. Moment of truth. What do we find in the pyramid?
Yeah, as I was saying, if we see Buttersword and silvers in here, that could be good. Unfortunately,
Buttersword or silvers.
Yeah, not nearly as useful. Because those could make up a little bit of time. In the Ganon fight in particular.
At this point, we do know that there is a... did Shkoople skip the big chest?
That's a good question. I didn't, I was watching Laggy at the time. Now we're going to see if Laggy, to transition here, is going to follow that shovel.
That sounds like a game show. Follow that shovel!
Always makes you think of follow that bird. But yeah, it would be kind of strange to skip the big chest if you took the advantage. There we see the
Laser bridge butter.
Yeah, depending on how many keys you've found,
There's
you could elect. Yeah, you could elect to skip the big chest. It depends on how many keys you have at that point. And I don't exactly know the key logic personally. It's usually just not enough of a time loss to skip opening the big chest if you don't have the the big key already.
In my experience, Turtle Rock has too many items values.
That is,
to skip
unless you're in Go mode, in which case you don't really have any incentive to go and check Mimic Cave. And Shkoople enters a Trinex. That Buttersword is going to make this. This is going to be a little cherry on top.
That Buttersword does make this a much easier Trinex fight.
Yeah, I would say in most cases, the Tempered Sword is sufficient. Yeah, and Laggy doing what I was alluding to earlier, going ahead, checking the shovel spot, picking up Mushroom on the way, and checking both of those. And this is, again, a safety play.
Another blue potion.
So Laggy's making,
last bottle.
Yeah, Laggy's making the safety play here. Checking those turn-in quests. To minimize the potential time lost by putting them off. Unfortunately, not really going to pay off.
Does turn his green potion into a blue potion.
Yeah, so we see Shkoople has to go back down for Swamp Palace, but since Hookshot was in Turtle Rock, there's really no time to be saved there. There's another mountain climb that is required. Could have saved it if they checked Turtle Rock earlier the first time around, but...
On the plus side, Go Mode Swamp is in effect.
Yeah, that's nice. You do get to skip quite a bit. Most of it not too bad.
Most importantly, left side swamp gets skipped.
Yeah, I mean that saves a lot of time, but it's more like personal time save at this point. Usually, left side swamp is sort of the area where you sort of postulate gambles. So you can save time by skipping it, but you might end up leaving something in there. If you have Go mode, you know you can save the time, but your opponent is going to be saving the time too. With Hookshot being our Go mode.
But with that Hookshot where it is, it is not uncommon to gamble the hookshotless swamp in an effort to minimize mountain climbs.
Yeah, Shkoople definitely making the most of that Ice Palace read. Lagging a little bit behind, mostly on that on the back of that sort of misread there.
It's an understandable read to make, though, because given what we knew, it made also make sense to go for the crystal first.
Yeah, and it can be another trap to fall into, to assume that the item required to clear a dungeon couldn't possibly be inside it, despite the fact that that's how pretty much every vanilla Zelda dungeon has worked since the dawn of time.
I mean, I've had more than one instance of vanilla items in this randomizer. My personal favorite being vanilla bow, with the silvers being on Armos.
Yeah, chat wondering if we're going to see some chests open for silvers. I imagine we might see that. Probably not in Swamp Palace, though.
We could, if he does Diver Down, we might see the 2 in the Flooded Room opened.
Yeah, I would see the ones that you walk right by. Otherwise, it's not really worth checking them. Both of these runners should be comfortable enough with Tempered Sword plus Silverless, so.
Very nice Diver Down there.
Skipping those chests, just wants to go. With Butter Sword, I'm not surprised. Golden Sword Silverless is not bad.
That was a very clean Diver Down.
Yeah, you don't want to waste a clean Diver Down like that with picking up those dirty sunken chests. Could be fish in there. Or eels.
I mean, he's diving underwater to walk along the ocean floor. You gotta hold your breath for as long as possible.
Hey, you don't wanna waste your.
Laggy's going straight to swamp with that hookshot find, actually.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was about to say, wow, Laggy made up a lot of time before realizing there's no way that he made it down there without just skipping as soon as he found the hookshot. Oh, that was a very, very quick throw a rock on Laggy's side. Unfortunately, not going to be able to get this nice, quick kill that Shkoople just got on the right side here.
To chat, the MSU pack is Octopath Traveler being played through Laggy's audio.
Yeah, so if you want to pick it up, DM Laggy after the race. You could Google it, but that doesn't feel as personal.
I believe it's also accessible from the Link to the Past Randomizer Discord. They have an MSU channel that talks a lot about how to do things with MSU packs.
And we're going to see, with all 7 crystals collected, Shkoople is going to be making the final climb of Death Mountain towards Ganon's Tower. So get your guesses in for which of the 22 checks in the basement of Ganon's Tower you think the big key will be found in. I say checks and not chests because one of them is a torch.
Now, in my usual state, I'm not going to participate because I don't feel it's fair for the commentators to participate myself. Feel free, Ezmar, to do so yourself.
Somebody already took 3. No.
Somebody already took 3.
Somebody take 2. I'm not a fast reader. No, nobody took 2. Okay. But yeah, I was about to bring this up. Ganon's Tower basement is. There's really only one possibility that could save all of the time here for Laggy, and that would be Ganon's Tower key in Tile Room, Shkoople doing the sensible thing, grabbing it last, and Laggy doing the insane thing and grabbing it first. That would equalize some of the time, but right now...
Not where he still has a Turtle Rock. He's gonna have to catch up quick to do that.
I mean, it can't be... I mean, it can be understated, but don't underestimate the power of Tile Room first if your opponent is guaranteed to do it last, because that's a whole Ganon's Tower basement worth of time. That's close to a dungeon's worth of time. But it's a hard read. It's a long shot, and I wonder if Laggy would be even feeling close to enough behind to consider it, because it's a huge risk. If it doesn't pay off, then you've definitely lost. And we see Shkoople diving in. Big key chest number one.
Well, I believe now is time we go up the tower.
Yeah, so, yeah, tile room strats wouldn't even have the opportunity to pay off, because it would be really bold to go into tile room without checking either of those two chests, specifically because of that.
And congratulations to Simo Rocks, or is that Simo? Cerno Rocks? For winning our big key guessing game today.
Yeah, I've only won the guessing game once, and it was because nobody guessed lower than 3, and that happened. So, yeah, GG, also our first guesser, notably. So yeah, we're right up the tower, and Shkoople essentially has victory in hand. Red Mail, Butter Sword, no silvers, they could still show up. But I don't imagine we see too many chest opens. We might see validation chest.
And gets through Spike Room cleanly there. Deadrocks do not want to play nicely today, do they?
Yeah, Laggy hoping to not Simo Rocks right now.
What in the world? The Deadrocks are evil today.
Pull onto the gauntlet, as it is dubbed. I actually started calling it that before realizing that everybody else also called it that. Probably why it's called that.
What else would it be called?
Exactly. I mean, but it's always kind of weird when you like think of your own name for something and then find out everybody else also already uses that. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean to inadvertently play into
that was very close. Shkoople's down to half a heart before drinking that potion. As Laggy goes through Turtle Rock.
Yeah, this is a pretty big time deficit, and knowing the location of that big key, it's Shkoople could make mistakes here and still take it pretty handily. I can't even say Laggy would have to play extremely well. Laggy would have to rely on Shkoople to make some major mistakes here, or in the Ganon fight.
I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, with 5-0 runners, though, I wouldn't expect
I've seen it happen before with better runners than these two.
All I'm saying is Laggy fans, you know, steel yourselves. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
the conveyor messed up the Wizrobe room.
Don't build yourselves up, Buttercups.
Why is it that the Ganon's Tower makes everything harder by adding conveyor belts or ice or both to previous challenges?
Well, it's the last dungeon in the game. They've got nothing to hold back at this point.
Yes, but couldn't they come up with something more original? Couldn't they use some of the pipes from the, couldn't they make a harder pipe maze to use, for example?
That's Turtle Rock's thing, man. Especially since in vanilla, you're guaranteed to be doing Ganon's Tower right after Turtle Rock, pretty much. You don't want to oversaturate the player's brain with too many pipes. This isn't Mario. This isn't 7-3.
Oh, 7-3.
Skipping that chest, not worth it.
Shkoople going into the Moldorm 2 fight.
This is probably the most likely place that we'll see some time lost here.
Nope.
Not more. Very excellent Moldorm fight.
Butter Sword makes this fight really easy.
Yeah, it's always possible to lose time.
And some validation bombs.
Yeah, no matter how well equipped you are, Moldorm 2 can... I always say Moldorm 3 because it's the third boss in the tower. But Moldorm 2 can... always has the potential to give you a rough time. You like to have Butter Sword, but you can never count out that worm. He's a trooper.
He's a troll is what he is.
He is a Starship Trooper. Nice double hit there, I believe.
It looked like a double, yes. That one's a double.
And nice presence of mind to continue to slash. Some runners end up assuming the spin hitbox will stick around a little too long. Ooh, yeah, I probably would have just getting a little greedy for that double there. Almost excellent.
No, the first one was a single.
The first one was a single. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it did look like that, but it looked from the hit registration.
And now the pig turns into a bat and flies away.
Yeah, so some pretty impressive lineups there. Aghanim 2 is Aghanim 1 is an uninteresting boss fight, but Aghanim 2, there's a lot that goes into that boss fight. The patterns that you get and how you respond to them is very, very important. Aghanim 1 is all luck. Aghanim 2, there's a lot of skill that goes into that one. But we're on to the cannon fight. And with Buttersword, we're gonna be seeing Shkoople with Restream.
You have to be good at your agonometry to do Aga 2.
Yeah, I have to go agonometry.
That Buttersword makes getting to phase 3 easy.
Yeah, half magic and game 2. Yeah, you just put one cycle both of these first two phases. I'm pretty sure that was more than enough time to hit there.
I'm pretty sure it was about 3 times as many hits as needed.
You're not worried about magic here. You got potions. You got everything you need. So all you need is some sure foots here to not fall off that ledge.
And we're going into phase 4. We will find out where our silvers are. Ganon, will you sit still, please?
Yeah, laggy finishing up Trinex. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit glued to Shkoople's screen recently, but
the arrows are in the tower.
That's unsurprising. They often are. But yeah, excellent execution from both of these runners. This time difference is coming down to just routing differences, as one would tend to expect of runners of this record.
Routing is the hardest part of this game.
Yeah, especially since it's half luck, half knowledge.
I think we're at like 5 or 6 spins now. We're at 1, maybe 2 cycles. Probably 2 cycles now.
Laggy getting the second check.
And get your GGs in chat for Shkoople.
And Laggy begins the climb. Not too far behind, all things considered. That time loss coming off of the back of a good read on Turtle Rock from Shkoople, and a good read on Ice Palace. Other than that, everything else pretty much coming out in the wash from both of these runners.
And thank you to Lumaga for the cheer, for the 600 bits given in chat.
Yep, 6-0, and you could add another O for ties, I suppose. Unless either of you have ever F-tied before?
No, they have not.
That 600 is completely accurate. It's a perfect number of bits. Now, I don't know if we're trying to line up an interview.
That isn't. I believe. It looks like Shkoople has joined the green room for an interview. We will get. And welcome Shkoople to the interview. GG.
Oh, hang on, I gotta turn this down. Okay. Hello. Whoa, let's rein it in here. Laggy's in the gauntlet right now, climbing Ganon's tower, and you have taken the win here. Thoughts on the scene?
Panic, all of it.
It's kind of interesting from our perspective. You made all of the right decisions at all of the right times.
Yeah, I mean, it all worked out, but I was, I don't know, man. I don't. I'm a little
How did you
discombobulated.
doing this without your mentor? I know we've had a couple of mentorless weeks so far, but how is your confidence going into this?
The confidence about the mentor is fine. It's just I have a tendency to screw up a lot. Like, as you could see, I did some weird things in the seed, skipping chests and messing up the purple chest, going to hobo, and it worked out for that sword.
The hobo worked out, so it looked all intentional. But yeah, the purple chest didn't end up fighting you. I gave you the benefit of the doubt, saying that you didn't want it anyway.
That's basically what it came down to, and I was just like, okay, that doesn't exist anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah. All that said, I mean, the execution, especially on the back half, you know, how was it? How are you feeling going into the back half after making the read on Skull Woods into Bumper Cave, and then later making the play onto Turtle Rock before checking some of those overworld checks? Were you feeling good about your time, or?
The Skull Woods mirror into Hammer on Bumper was like a highlight. I felt really good about that. And then finding the boots and ice was just super nice. I was very happy about that.
Yeah, we were saying before you joined us that a lot of the time difference, the execution between the two of you was pretty on par, but it came down to the routing. You choosing Ice Palace before dipping into Swamp ended up saving you quite a bit of time. That was one of the major difference makers.
I will location Swamp.
Yeah, Laggy opting to dive into Hookout with Swamp rather than going into Ice Palace, which didn't quite work out.
The other major route split was also with that Skullwoods play. While you did Skullwoods and Bumper, Laggy was doing Pod without the hammer.
Okay. Yeah, I knew when I got Bombos off that green pendant that I had to try to make it good, so I just dove into Ice immediately.
Yeah, and I was mentioning that with Icebreaker, those 3 checks they didn't end up this time, but those 3 checks pretty quickly with Icebreaker. Yeah. So it's not as hard of a read as it might seem with independent ice in that exact scenario. The Bombos especially makes it effective.
Agatu giving Laggy a little bit of trouble with the patterns today. I say as Agatu goes down.
Weird patterns.
Yeah, I was actually voicing a little bit of admiration for some of your angles. They were they didn't quite hit all the time, but I saw what you were going for. And it was some of those were some tricky patterns to go for. I thought you played that Agatu really well.
Thanks.
And at 150-115, Laggy drops into the Ganon fight.
While we hopefully we can get this question answered before the end of the fight here, before we gotta glue our eyes to Laggy here. What were you thinking about the possibility of a pedestal seed after you saw that? You know, you got the green pendant and you ended up getting full clearing Ice Palace as well.
I was kind of starting to wonder about it, but with no book, I wasn't going to commit to Mire, and then the Fire Rod being in desert kind of sealed the deal there.
Yeah.
For me and
having found the Fire Rod, it could have made sense to hopefully quick clear Mire and work it in with your Woods clear. But I felt like if I'd made as many fortuitous plays like the hammer as you had at that point, I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, no, Mire was very low on my list, especially after I got those boots into desert.
And then Laggy into the silverless part of the Ganon fight.
Unfortunately, hits it with a silvered hit first. And there's one. There's two. And 3.
Yeah, I remember when I first started doing Stoverless, the temptation was so strong to let that go early, because your muscle memory just starts to take over, and you forget you got to hit them late. Like that.
Just the timing was right, but the dash had not quite finished at that point, so Ganon went to his bottom position and prepared a fire bat.
Taking that hit from that fire bat was a little bit spooky there. If the wrong button had been held there, that would have been a fall. But luckily, Laggy hanging on to that.
And again, right there. Unfortunately, just lights the torch just too early.
Yeah, it's going for that just a little bit too early there. Some of this is looking like the muscle memory.
And get your GG's in chat for Laggy, who's going to finish a little less than 8 minutes behind Shkoople here. But both runners getting a sub 2 on this seed, which this was not a pleasant seed to have to run.
I'd have taken it after some of my latter seeds. Lazy Kid is a cruel master. Can we get a confirmation from Oro on our official times? We're also joined here by Laggy. Laggy, GG.
GG.
GG, man.
GG. Good game.
So initial
how do you
thoughts?
feel about that seed?
Yeah, initial thoughts. Yeah, we were mentioning most of the time difference came off of the back of largely you dipping into some dungeons without the items required to clear them, notably Swamp Palace and Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, so the first big gamble I did was when I got flippers, I was betting that Hammer would be on East Dark World. So I swam over to Pod, Pyramid Ledge, Catfish, gambling that Hammer was over there. But it was on Bumper Ledge, so that was wrong. And Swamp was just, worst hook shot. I ended up checking everything in the game except for Mire, I believe, so that was not fantastic.
Yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate on that. In a few minutes here, we're going to see the collection rate. Shkoople with a rather low 140 out of 216. That's a pretty low collection rate.
And Oro, our Restreamer Oro, has put the official times in chat for us. 146.06 compared to 154.23.
Yeah, so that's just slightly over an 8-minute difference.
Alright, and with that fast forward from Laggy for the credits, we can get to see some of the fun stats.
The important stuff. And not much interest in these boss kills. The Tempered Sword was pretty par for the course. Interestingly, your GT Big Q is 2, while Shkoople, big brained it on 1, decided to open that left chest first.
I think that.
So if Laggy had been the first one in, you would have gotten the win on the game, Ezmar.
It's true. I would have.
152 compared to 140.
So yeah, 12
Makes sense.
Swamp made up for some of that. You also spent a little more time on build check, such as the Dig Game and Mushroom before heading up to Turtle Rock, which Shkoople did immediately.
Yeah, I was basically, after I found Fire Rod, I was just thinking like, well, it's either in TR or it's something behind Fire Rod. So that left Pyramid Fairy and some boot checks that I had left out. I kind of felt like if it was in TR, I was dead. because I had done that first trip up the mountain, which resulted in almost nothing. I guess Hera had Bombos, that was important, but if I recall correctly, East and DDM just had nothing at all. So if you went to TR right away and you saved it for your first trip, you'd be significantly ahead.
Now, did either of you consider, when you saw that Turtle Rock quake and you were able to open it and dip in for that first check right away, did either of you consider doing that?
No.
I did, and I regretted not doing it.
At the time, I was talking about it. I was hyping up that chest, and when it turned out to be hookshot, I got a big "I told you so" to everybody in chat. But yeah, that is it's reasonable to not have done that. But it was an interesting seed, sort of forcing you to, unless you make that hard read to go up the mountain an extra time for that hookshot.
Well, it kind of forced you to go up the mountain an extra time anyways.
Yeah,
you have to go up the mountain. Sorry, go ahead.
It could have been just 2 climbs. It ended up being 3. But you could have gotten that hookshot the first time around and done swamp before going up again. Speaking of which, Laggy, when you picked up the hookshot, you kind of immediately decided to go do swamp.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it really matters either way at that point.
Right.
Like,
I was just kind of wondering what the thought process was there.
Like, maybe the remaining items of swamp make something that make TR easier. That was kind of like my last minute justification, but I don't think it made a difference whether I did TR or swamp at that point.
I had the same thought to leave, and then I thought about it for a second. I was like, I guess it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You would kind of save maybe a little time to walk over to GMP, possibly.
If it had been any other dungeon but Turtle Rock, it would have made more sense. But with it being Turtle Rock and Turtle Rock being as much of a time sink no matter what you do, it's hard to justify leaving it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and as I pointed out earlier, the difference in this race, honestly, it just came down to routing decisions. Like Laggy mentioned, that the pod play was an intentional gamble. That's something to point out. Making intentional gambles, it could have paid off big. If the Hammer had been over there, all of the searching that Shkoople ended up doing with the Skull Woods routing, which was good routing, would have come up for naught, would have ended up losing a little bit of time. It's really it can go either way in randomizer.
I mean, the thought process was like, when I went to Dark Village, okay, so I had mitts, that was access to Dark World. Early on, there was a bit of an Aga spook, right, when you got the sword and cape? And I was like, well, if I find Lantern, it's probably an Agaseed. Lantern wasn't there, whatever. So we went to Dark Village, and the choice was either go south to Hype Cave, or go north to Skull Woods, Bumper Cave, Bumper Ledge, and that was it, though, because you didn't have Fire Rod, you didn't have Mirror, so you couldn't clear Skull Woods, you couldn't check Graveyard Ledge, so it's just like, well, there's maybe 2 items in Skull Woods and 1 item on Bumper Ledge, versus the much more dense south part of Dark World. And that was why I decided to go south. And once I got to Hype Cave, I was just like, let's just see if Pod has it, because I got Flippers, and all Flippers gave me, when I ensilated early on and found Master Sword on Hobo, that was the only thing that a Flipper check gave, and that didn't really unlock anything, so I figured maybe Flippers was pointing me towards Pod and East Dark World in general.
Yeah, and Shkoople had done that even earlier than you had, and ended up getting that Master Sword a little bit earlier. Also opted to grab the Smith, then do that South Dark World area, save and quit after Hype Cave, and then that's when they turned in the Smith, and then started their north wrap around.
Yeah, that's definitely a play I thought about. It was either grab the Smith, save, go, quit, Hype Cave, turn it in, and then go north, or just go into Pod. But I mean, you had Lantern as well, and you had Bow, so I was like, Dark Mage could have something. Lantern's pointing me this way as well. Flippers is pointing me this way. Like, I felt like it was a reasonable gamble too.
I mean, it was an understandable gamble. If I didn't pick up the Smith, in Shkoople's shoes, if the Smith hadn't been in play, it's a gamble I would have made myself.
It looked so smart, but only because Mirror ended up being in Skull Woods.
Yeah.
You don't be like, okay, I'll wrap around the north side. Mirror will probably be in Skull Woods or something. You don't do that. But since it was in there, then all of a sudden the north wraparound looked just cosmically good. Just because you can route Graveyard Ledge over on your way to Catfish, hope you find something else, Sea Bumper Ledge, it looks great from that perspective, but that mirror ended up making a really good play rather than just a decent one.
But why would you? Why gamble on mirror being in 2 checks in Skullwoods compared to 5 in Pod?
Yeah, you just kind of dive in there for the checks, and it ended up paying off this time. And sometimes that's just how you play it.
I put off dungeons double dipping as much as possible. That's just kind of my philosophy. So that's part of the reason. And Skullwoods is basically overworld checks, so I kind of don't really count that.
So Ezmar, do you have any questions for either of our runners?
Not right now. It's well played, both of you. Again, the execution was on par for both of you. Good execution throughout, good boss fights, good dungeon routing, and it just came down to routing decisions. Do we have a schedule for when's our next race? We got another one tonight?
Give me just a moment. I'll go check.
Yes, it looks like we do.
We do have another one. We have one at 10 o'clock Eastern between Thornado and Polar Bear Bunny.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good one. I had the pleasure of commentating Thornado versus Grim Legend. I think I hope I got that right. I just pulled that out of my brain, so you know how unreliable that can be sometimes. But that was a fantastic race. Thornado pulling it out on the most cosmic devoted read I've ever seen. But that should be a one you don't want to miss tonight. Do any of our runners have any more thoughts before we sign off for the evening, morning, afternoon, wherever we are?
No, just good game. Very close.
GG to both of you for that race.
Yep. GG. Good luck in the brackets.
You too.
Yeah, and with that, I think we'll be signing off as well. Make sure you give both of those runners a follow. Our excellent restreaming team here, Oro on the restream. Yeah, give me a second here. Who else have we got? Fred, aka Derf, on the tracking. Zeke Highwind on comms, and myself, Ezmar. We've been Gomo Podcast Mentor Tournament. We'll be back at 10 Eastern. So see you then.
Ezmar